So I again apologize for the delay, but I hope you will enjoy our session because we are focusing on humorous speech contest, which is about to held in Karachi Toastmasters Club. Karachi Toastmasters Club is one of the founding club in Pakistan. If you don't know, this is the club which has given the country leadership. This is the club which has given this country champions. You can see few of them. You can see, champions. And this is the club who has given this amazing, inspiring ability to its member to move forward, to unleash their hidden talents and to grow in their personal and professional life. So this is the club which is right now world number one. I welcome you all to this world number one club and its panel discussion on humor, how to create humor and what is do's and don'ts of humor. When we say do's and don'ts, it reminds me home-like feeling. Do this, don't do this. So, and you can create humor from this. So I have two amazing DTMs with me. One is dashing Toastmaster Rahma Uneeb, and another is distinguished Toastmaster Talha bin Hamid. So let me read their introduction because they have given me a written introduction and I'm struggling to read it because it is more powerful than in the introduction I have given to Kaliya. So first of all, I would introduce our dashing Toastmaster Rahma Uneeb. She is a mental wellness coach, currently in the process of becoming a clinical psychologist, and I don't know what she has written. In her free time, she enjoys consuming books, researching, connecting with people. She is currently with Karachi Toastmasters, which is one of the sister concern of Karachi Toastmasters Club, and she is president-elect for that club. And I had an amazing memory with her because in one of the contest, I didn't got first position, and she was the person who told me that these trophies are just a decoration pieces. But I would like to mention why she told me that, because she also didn't succeeded on that day. That's why. But we shared the podium anyhow. So where was I? Okay. Rahma has remained passionate about Toastmasters and public speaking. She is also a poet. Yeah, I loved her slam poetry, and I would love if she can answer my question, one of my question in a slam poetry style, and never fails to spellbind the audience whenever she speaks. Yeah, she's spellbinder. So please put your hands together for dashing Toastmaster Rahma. Next, our panelist is, who is he? Oh, distinguished Toastmaster Talha bin Hamid, and I have profound memories of Talha bin Hamid. I have beaten him many times, obviously in a speech contest, and with the same speech, obviously twice. Yes, twice. We have used twice in intercross. Yeah, he tends to forget things. So, but he's an amazing person, and even we were competing with each other. The good thing about him that he motivates other, and he don't consider others as his competitor. That's why he didn't win, because he helped Rashid Dastagir, he helped me, and then he said, why I lost the contest? So that's how, but this is the way Toastmasters are. We help each other, and we have other person's interests in our mind before we start our journey. So, distinguished Toastmaster Talha bin Hamid is a chartered accountant by profession and table writer, blogger, market analyst, currently associated with the mainstream non-profit organization as head of internal audit. His journey of Toastmaster is itself a saga, and his achievement list in Toastmaster is too long that we need a separate meeting for it. Are you sure I should read all these things, Talha?
No, please. I didn't write this.
Okay.
Please don't.
In a nutshell, Ali Asha has given me with the instruction that I have to read it all. So what can I do?
Okay, then please go ahead.
He joined Toastmaster in 2016. He is triple distinguished Toastmaster. So he has one in traditional program and two in pathways. And I know he is also pursuing 3 to 4 more distinguished Toastmasters program and pathways. So he is currently serving as program quality director, and he is our incoming district director. So we are honored that he has joined us. He is currently vice president education of Karachi Toastmasters Club, and he is president elect of Karachi Toastmasters Club. So we are honored that we have two president elect of Karachi Toastmasters and Karachi Toastmasters with us. So let's begin the question answers. Are you ready? I think you are feeling nervous, Rahma.
Not at all.
No. So tell me, who is the funniest, you or your elder sister, Sahar?
That's not even something I need to think about because I'm the funnier one. She's the bossy sister. And yep, no question about it. I'm funnier.
Okay, that's great. And Talha bin Hamid, who is the funniest, you or your wife?
Well, I would say it's a tie because I praise her all the time and she criticizes me all the time. So uh, the humor quotient is pretty much equal on both sides.
Okay, so many people think that they are not funny like me. So they mean it that they are not funny. So do you think that if they are not funny, can they create humor in their speeches, or can they help themselves from the humor? Question to Rama.
Okay. So this is actually something I used to think about because I do think I'm funny as a person, but when it comes to speeches, I've always struggled to put in humor into my speeches. So I wondered if I could become that, funny speaker, or it was something that people were born with. But I started analyzing speeches where people made jokes to which, the audience was really laughing and they were really into it. And I started noticing patterns in how they made the joke or what techniques they were using. And I realized that it is something that you can learn. And it is something that I did apply to speeches. And I saw that, the audience was reacting much better as opposed to before. So I definitely think, like any other skill, humor is something that you can get better at if you know how to do it, and if you practice it, it's a muscle, and it gets better with time.
Okay, so I agree with your suggestion that it is a learnable skill, but it is very hard to learn. Toastmaster Talha, uh, can you tell us what's the difference between comedy and humor?
Oh, comedy and humor. Okay, first of all, let me mention here that as I discovered myself, you don't have to be a funny person in order to make people laugh. And no doubt that you have also seen this. Humor can come from anywhere and from any person. So one should not think that they are not funny, so they can't do something humorous. Uh, that is the first stigma that we should remove. Secondly, comedy and humor. Humor is more subtle and it makes you think. Even after hearing the speech, you keep recalling it. Comedy is perhaps more immediate and can come from physical sources and physical antics. It can come from those, but humor is more about thoughts and situations and language usage. And sometimes it doesn't land straight away. People take time to absorb it. So I think that's the difference between comedy and humor.
Okay. So if we can move forward on this question, in Toastmaster, you have completed a pathway which is humorous pathway, and similarly in traditional program we had a manual, advanced manual of humorous speeches. So if it's a very tricky question for you right now, that if we compare both, what's your opinion about whether that advanced manual was better or this pathway has a more powerful or insights?
Okay, this is being recorded. If you promise not to send it to World Headquarters, I can answer this question. Okay, my personal take about the engaging humor pathway, and also the take of other international Toastmasters who have done it, because I was one of the first. I think I was the first person in Pakistan to do it because it was introduced right then, and I picked it up. The consensus is that it's just a collection of random projects with occasional humorous projects thrown in, pretending to be a pathway. It is a completely normal pathway, just like any other pathway. It will not teach you humor unless you learn it yourself. Whereas the traditional humorous manual, I think there were two. In fact, one was the humor speaker and one was the entertaining speaker, which was pretty much related. That was a full-fledged training program, and I the degree of learning that I received from those two manuals and the other advanced manuals uh, cannot be compared to what is contained in the pathway. That said, that said, there is hope because uh, it is about how we apply ourselves. The manuals forced us and our evaluators to apply themselves fully. The pathways allow us to get away with just reading the evaluation sheet and the evaluator too, just having a cursory glance at the generic evaluation sheet. It doesn't have any useful information about the project, but if we go and deep dive into the material that is provided along with each project in engaging humor and other pathways, yes, there is real value to be had there because a lot of material comes from the advanced manuals and they've added a lot of examples, a lot of interactive elements, a lot of videos. Uh, so, yeah, it is slight between the manual and the pathway. There's a difference. The manual made learning and hard work mandatory before you were able to advance. Not to mention, you had to do 10 projects to receive one certification, right? And in pathways, you receive 3 or 4 certifications while doing 10 projects. So the message to everyone is that if you read the materials and really apply yourself to the material, you will certainly get the same degree of learning that you got from the humorous manuals. But it will take much harder, much more hard work.
Okay, so what I take away from this discussion that a lot of new things have been added in the pathways in the form of videos and in form of guidance, and it is a valuable suggestion that if you can get the copy of that manual as well, and if you can go through that manual, it will help you out in your pathways because you will develop your skills. So I totally agree with your suggestion that both have their pros, and if we can combine it, we can learn more. So now I'm getting personal to both of you. That both of you have participated in humorous speech contest. So before I go to both of you, I would like to share one thing with the audience that I have participated in few humorous contests, and it happens that sometimes audience is very responsive and they take your jokes and they laugh and giggle everywhere, stitches in their stomach. But the same speech, when I participated in one of the contests, nobody was laughing. So, have you faced any difficulty while you were participating in humorous contests, and what was your experience, Toastmaster Rahma?
Okay, thank you for that question, DTM Zaid. So I remember that a few of the speeches I would give before, I would think that they're really funny, and the jokes used to make certain people laugh. Like I would test them out first, but then when I would perform it on stage, I did not get that reaction. And it was sometimes at a different contest or in a different context. Or if I was giving it as a project, I saw that the reaction was a bit different, and it did vary with the audience. But at the same time, it also really tells you that you need to understand your audience in order for you to craft your speech properly, because no two audiences will be the same. So that is a critical component.
Okay. So, same question to you, Talha. What was your experience and any challenge you faced in getting giggles from the audience?
Oh yes, oh yes. It's always a challenge because you draft a speech and you really never know unless you deliver it in terms of humor whether the humor will work or not. That's the reality. Sometimes, and let me share one of the experiences from uh, the international speech contest, which before you remind everyone else, I will remind everyone else that where I lost to you twice was that if you recall, uh, I start the speech by portraying a baby and crying like a baby. And I did not build in a laugh into that. I did not anticipate that it will receive a laugh. And it did on both occasions. So honestly, it was quite disturbing to me because I thought that the humorous bits were coming up ahead, but that baby's cry was more shocking rather than humorous. But it received the loudest laugh, so I had to stop and then regather myself. So it was a pleasant kind of surprise, and sometimes you do get it. Another experience is that I delivered a humorous speech, which was, I believe, the last speech of the humorous manual, and it fell completely flat. ATM Rashid Dastagi was the evaluator, and he made no uh, allowances uh, before declaring it dead and flat and dead on arrival with no humor at all. And yes, it was true because I thought it was funny, but nobody in the audience laughed. In fact, the more I spoke, the more funereal their faces grew. So, yeah. But then I delivered the same speech at Express Toastmasters Club when DTM Mother Jamil Marhum Shaheed was evaluating. And I don't know what changed. Maybe my delivery changed. I believe that is one of the reasons. And seeing a new audience, I was less scared about uh, not landing with the audience. I hardly changed the speech. I just changed the delivery. Maybe. So I discovered that audience will not laugh if you don't believe in your own jokes. If you really believe in them, then you will sell them and you will give proper pause and proper build up, and sometimes that will make the audience laugh. So that is very important, that you should think that your jokes are funny. Only then they have a chance of landing. Even then, if they don't land, yes, that's your luck. But maybe changing the delivery. If you during a speech you feel that your jokes are not landing, maybe change the delivery a bit. Start smiling. Sometimes smiling also incites audience to smile, and they become more forgiving, and they're willing to laugh at jokes that that don't make sense to them. But anything goes, right? It's a competition, and you have to incite some humorous response from the audience. So those are my two experiences. It's hard to predict, uh, but you should sell the jokes yourself. You should believe in the jokes yourself, and if you do, then chances are that yes, they will win.
So if we take this discussion ahead, the biggest challenge we are facing now, one is coronavirus, but this is the smallest challenge we are facing. But in public speaking, what we are facing that as a speaker in online setting, I'm not getting the reaction. I'm delivering jokes, but I don't know whether a person behind the camera is off, whether he or she is laughing or not, or whether my jokes are up to the mark or not. So in that case, and in the context of our contest is coming up, what's your advice how a speaker can deal with this situation, Rama?
Okay, so the last contest that I remember, which was a humorous speech contest, and it was happening in the COVID climate. So I was giving it online, and I remember that I did not see anyone's faces. So, yes, that was a concern that I didn't know if my jokes made sense. However, I think I did two things which helped me. One of them was that I tried and tested the speech out so that, like, at least the people around me, it made sense to them. Even if I was talking to a screen, like, I felt like my speech would be good enough. And the second thing was that I reframed it and I said that, okay, maybe this is a good thing. If people aren't able to laugh, maybe I would get conscious if people don't laugh at my jokes. Now I don't really, I won't care about what they think. I'm just going to focus on my delivery. So I think those two things really helped me give a speech in an online context.
Okay. So now coming to DT and Talha, usually I have seen that there are two categories of jokes. One is husband-wife relationship and their jokes, and rest are others. So 60% are husband-wife, 40% are others. So do you feel that we can create more jokes and try to avoid getting into trouble from spouses by getting them in our jokes, since our spouses are coming and joining Toastmasters? So what your take on it?
Well, your spouse hasn't.
That's
What do you
why.
mean our spouses? We I'm anxiously waiting for the day because then I'll wait to see your speeches. Okay, it is a two-way. It is a double-edged sword. The spousal or marital jokes, because on the one hand uh, they are the most likely to elicit laughter. One cannot deny that, right? And especially in Asia, Middle East, uh, that is the chief source of humor. And over in the West, from what I've seen, perhaps they don't have like uh, their families are not as closely knit, and many of them don't have spouses at all, or they have exes. So perhaps they're not so big on them, right? But in our society, at least, one cannot deny that this is the kind of joke that's likely to land. Okay, but I think even and yes, since we have to derive the humor from our personal lives, we cannot use someone else's material, and most often the humor comes from our marital relationships. So I believe one thing that one can do is that maybe first of all interacting with our kids and our parents and our seniors. That is also a very rich gold mine of jokes if you think about it. Our teachers, our professors, and our bosses, right? And secondly, even if we rely on spousal jokes, then maybe they could be slightly different. They can be slightly removed from the usual fare of the husband, or like the speaker being the victim and the other spouse being the oppressor. So 90% of the humor comes from that, right? That I'm suffering, I'm bichara, and look what my spouse did to me. And yeah, we've all done that, right? But uh, I think sometimes the tables can turn, right? But yes, I won't deny. I cannot. I used to be very much against this, but then I realized that, where else would the humor come from in our lives uh, if we are to come up with original content and not copy someone else's content? This is the main source of humor. So perhaps change things up a bit, and like the humor can extend to in-laws and deceased in-laws as well, as you have witnessed me countless times. So So yeah, it's a rich gold mine of humor, but it doesn't have to be about the wife or the husband. Like, it can be about other relationships.
Okay. So coming to Toastmaster Rama, you're a student of psychology. So can you relate humor with psychology? If someone is funny or creating jokes, so as a psychologist, what comes into your mind? What's going on in that person's inside?
Sure, sure. So I was just reading up on this because I thought it would be interesting to form a link between psychology and humor and public speaking. So first of all, if your speeches are humorous, your audience is more likely to remember it, because anything which has humor has makes an instant connection, and they're more likely to it's more likely to resonate with your audience. So, there's a quote where Maya Angelou says that it's not what you say or do, but it's what you make people feel. And if you make them feel like they're having a good time, they remember that. They might not remember the speech, but it really sticks with them. So there's a psychology of that where, just knowing how people work and knowing that they like speeches, like I would go to competitions and I would see a very good, well written speech, which would have everything. But at the end of the day, the funnier speech would always win, which sometimes happened because the judges were not so attuned with what makes a good speech. They just went for, the dramatics and theatrics of it. But it was because, psychologically, it felt nice to them because humor gets you in a way that other things don't. And then there's also the psychology of how, it's important to have an audience, because if you don't have people who are laughing, it is really difficult for you to have that humor. So, if you've seen sitcoms, or if you've seen funny shows, they have like a track of people laughing. So they do that so that you laugh as well, because laughter is contagious. So in that regard, having not having people laughing and we can't actually hear them in the contest could be a barrier, but that is something that really helps us. So I mean, the bottom line is that we are wired to connect with people through humor, and it is something which makes our speeches more compelling. um, but at the same time, having it in a social setting which is away from COVID, is it makes it easier because laughter is contagious.
Very well said. And the interesting question for our participant would be that as the contest is coming, and you have participated in various contests and won many contests, so how they should prepare for this humorous contest? To Rama. Yeah.
Okay. So I would say that uh, whatever you write, test it out on people, because honestly, sometimes things sound so funny in your head, and then you tell a joke to someone else and they don't laugh. They have a flat face, and you're just so disappointed, but you have to test it out. So that would be number one. And number two, I think, would be observing comedians, because the way they tell a joke is really teaches you about how to tell a joke. So they, whether it's their technique of pausing, or telling the complete reverse, like you're expecting something but they'll say the opposite, that really creates humor in the situation, or how they're using vocal variety. So sometimes when you're not feeling inspired to write your speeches and you watch like a video of comedians, it really puts you in that frame of mind.
Yeah, so the pauses are very important in delivering the jokes. And second important thing is um, when nobody laughs at your jokes, this is the important and very, very intimidating time for a person. And the thought might come that what's happening with the audience? Why they don't understand my joke? Let's repeat, or let me rephrase my thing, and let's push them so that the giggles are coming out. So, Talha, what judges will be looking at that if we repeat the joke or if we rephrase our joke, so that laughter is important, because if we see the ballot, it says that audience engaged or not, are they feeling giggles or not? So what's your take on this?
Yes, and that's a very interesting question. And I would first, as a related topic to this, I would first like to elaborate a little bit about the medium and its limitations. First of all, the only way we can conquer limitations is if we stop obsessing about limitations, okay, and start looking for opportunities. So this medium is, I know it's not the same as an in-person meeting. Number one, nobody is saying that, nobody is pretending that. But it can be superior in a lot of ways. How? See how clearly we are seeing each other, how clearly we are hearing each other, how clearly we are seeing each other's expressions. And if you see the speeches of the World Championship of Public Speaking, uh, this was used by my car and I always forget the name, the lady's name. It was used to the fullest because they used full range of facial expressions. I've seen international speech contests abroad, and yes, while they are mostly they said they deliver while sitting, and there's not much enthusiasm. It's just business as usual for them. But they do two things: facial expressions and vocal expressions. And this is the perfect medium for that. You cannot see the facial expressions of someone who's standing on a stage unless you're quite close. Similarly, vocal expressions also don't translate as well because this is a more intimate setting. So the message to everyone is that build on these strengths rather than lamenting not having a physical stage to stand on. Celebrate the opportunity that this platform gives you. Your expressions are much more visible, and the modulations of your voice. You can whisper, and people will hear you, right? Which was not possible. And of course, you can give pauses. Uh, Secondly, uh, what the judges are looking for. I will also say, and I will also urge the event chair and the contest chair who are in this meeting, please make sure that at least some of the videos are visible. Because honestly speaking, uh, I cannot get behind what has been happening in our district and other districts. I know technical limitations dictate that, right? The bandwidth limitations and everything. So yes, I perfectly understand that why all the audiences asked to, you know, keep a blank screen and the contestants have the sensation of addressing a wall. And it is ironic because 50 people are listening to you and yet you cannot see anyone. So I will urge the event chair to find a way to remove that limitation. Because guess what? While you're delivering a speech through Zoom, you can see people's faces much more clearly, the audience's faces as well. And the only other way to conquer this limitation is to keep giving speeches online. I mean, there's no other way. You need to continue to
Yeah.
give speeches because this will train you to think that yes, you are addressing a real audience and not a virtual audience. Because the audience is there, right? Whether it's physically there or virtually there, it doesn't make a difference. So, what the judges are looking for is, of course, the audience's reaction. But in the situations where there are no audience members visible, the judges are told that consider yourself an audience and just consider yourself as a proxy of the audience and try to recall how you felt. Okay, but I believe it will be tremendously helpful if at least some windows are allowed to be because personally for me the thing that helps me the most while delivering a speech is the expression of the timer, the expression of the audience. So, uh, and yes, if the judges, if you try to rephrase, I don't think there's any significant penalty for that because a humorous speech needs to be a proper speech first. And if you see, the most of the marks are very much in line with those of the international speech contest speech, and only a few additional marks are there for humorous content and audience creation. So it should be a well-coordinated speech first. So think before rephrasing, think before backtracking, because that will disturb the rhythm of the speech, and that will also convey to the judges that perhaps there's no structure to your speech. You're just trying to tell a few jokes. So I won't advise that. Instead, one suggestion could be that, for example, if your joke doesn't land, you can say something extempore. You can say that, oh, all those sad faces, I thought I was so funny. Perhaps better luck next time. Something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, make the joke on you. If the audience is not laughing, the joke is on you. So, why not make it a joke?
So now it's time we will be moving to our audience if they have any question. So feel free to ask, but the condition is you have to turn on the video so that we can see your expressions. So it's time. Amazing panelists are waiting for your questions. Okay. So while our audience is processing the question, I can ask you an advice, but it will be a one-word advice to the contestants who are preparing and want to grab the crown of winners. So what is one-word advice, Rama, you would give to our contestants?
Enjoy.
Enjoy is a, yeah, very well said. And Talha?
Uh, be yourself. I know those are two words, but be yourself. Don't change. Don't try to change into something that you're not. And
So,
that is when you will make the most impact.
so these are the 10 words, and be yourself. A lot of times I get this advice, be yourself. So what is this be yourself? Sometimes you are in different mood and sometimes you, okay, we have a question coming in from a person who is not showing his face. So let's take this question. It's very important. I request panelists to please, if they explain the judges' ballot. So Imran Rana has asked this question, and if as we don't have much time, but I would, due to the importance of this question, if Rama first you can elaborate what judges are looking for, and we have pretty much covered it, but the question relates to the composition of numbers. So if you remember, or Tala, if you remember, what are the marking numbers of each criteria, so that will be beneficial for the audience. Rama?
Okay. So content is 55%, which is a bit higher than, and TTM Tala is sharing the screen. I was about to suggest that. So it's a bit higher than an international speech where the content is 50%. The delivery is the same, it's 30%. And then language is a little, they've cut five, so language is 15, and in international it would be 20. So I think the bulk of it lies on the content in a humorous speech contest.
So as we have screen shared by Talha, so we get this official answer from this from Talha. We accept this answer from you as well as Rama. And if we can see 55 marks for the content. So first comes the content. And one tip which I have read in the manual that while you will be practicing again and again, so you will think that this joke don't attract laughters, because you will laugh for the first time, second time, and then it will become monotonous. So if you have laughed for the first time, this joke is effective, this humor is effective. Consider it because you're practicing, and audience will be listening for the first time. So let's unshare the screen and move to the audience. If you have any other question, we will be happy to take that question.
I have one question actually. May I
Yeah,
please?
sure,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, and it's for anyone who would like to answer. Both are respectful.
Yeah.
normally in the speech, we focus on the end, that it has to have a message. Does it require it in this humorous also?
Okay. Anyone can go and answer. Rama, would you like to answer?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because I think humor for the sake of humor can happen, but it's not as effective as humor which has a purpose. So if you can tie it with something which is more powerful or has like a message to it, I feel like it adds to it as opposed to, you're just making the audience laugh. I mean, it's okay, you can do that, but it's not the same as having a message tied to it.
Yeah. And one thing which I have read that in this contest, it should be a humorous story and it should be well connected with each other. You should not come up with one-liner jokes on different topics. You can use one-liner jokes if it relates to the topic. So that's more important. Talha, what's your take?
Yes, I will agree with both of you. It needs to be a speech of international speech contest first, even in my level. It needs to be a well-coordinated speech with a beginning, middle, transitions, end, and it needs to have a proper structure, proper conclusion, and then it needs to have humor. So preferably, it can be a humorous story. I mean, the only thing that fits very well in this is a humorous story, right? And or maybe it can be two or three stories, but they need to be connected and have a central theme, which should be the conclusion. That is very important. It cannot be a collection of jokes. It cannot be a collection of punchlines that you've gathered from somewhere, right? Uh, so it needs to be a speech first and humorous second. Secondly, about lesson or moral, there is this vague category of speech value, which is also, by the way, present in both international speech contest and this. Speech value is 15 marks. Ideas, logic, original thought. So my concept of speech value is that you've taken 5 to 7 minutes of audience's time, and yes, you've made them laugh, but leave them with something valuable. Make them think on something. And it does not have to be a sermon, a lecture at the end of the speech. You should do this. No, it can be a one-liner that, for example, you've concluded a humorous story and you can tell that, okay, this happened to me and I believe I messed things up by reacting. I hope that you will not do the same after listening to my story. Something like that. Something that makes the audience thinks and adds some value to their life and thoughts over 5 to 7 minutes. So yes, I agree that the moral needs to be there, the structure needs to be there, and as Zaid said, it cannot be a collection of random paragraphs with punchlines taken from somewhere else. It needs to be a well-connected speech.
And you can come up with a humorous message as well. You don't need to be serious about the message. And the purpose is to give people opportunity to laugh and giggle. So I remember when I was participating in Dubai, chief judge advised me after listening to my speech that in next speech what you need to do, that you have to bring laughter in first 20 seconds. So for me it was difficult, but I really liked his speech, advice that if we can bring in laughter in audience within 20 seconds of our speech, we can conquer the speech. So let's hear any other question if we have.
I have one more,
Yeah,
and this is for the interest of all the participants.
so you can go ahead.
Mainly we have heard, like, we have to change the twist at the end. Sometimes the audience are sure that he's going to land up somewhere, but they change the
Yeah.
uh, tall, dark, and then they don't say handsome. They say something else. You know. So this way, is there any step which we can learn or we can make on speeches? Because I tried a lot, and I was till today I'm not successful. In all my speeches, I thought, like, I'll say some story and at the end I will change it. Never happened with me. Have any of the panelists or you have experienced?
Well, Latif, I would advise you to, as Toastmaster Rahma suggested, to watch late night shows. Okay, Stephen Colbert or that other South African guy. I think I'm going. My memory is leaving me. Seriously, I've never been. I've been bad with names, but never this bad. Uh, who's that South African guy, Rahma?
Never know, know
It's
her.
Trevor Noah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Trevor Noah. So uh, just see one or two of their shows, and yes, most of their comedy is just very ordinary, and you won't even remember it after the show is over. Some of the jokes will stay with you, but observe their techniques, and you will learn very rapidly. Trust me on this. How to play with words, how to set up expectations, and then twist in a different direction. Uh, so, for example, let me try to think of an example that I learned from from Stephen Colbert. What he says is that, for example, uh, they were talking about this whole vaccination thing in the Trump administration, okay, and how it was being, like how the government was acting on the vaccination. And uh, so he's and there's this official Anthony Fauci. They have I don't know, he's the chief health administrator or something like that. And he had some disagreements with Trump on this because Trump denied that there was a need for vaccines and there was a pandemic. And this guy was actually in charge of saving lives. So uh, by relating the situation, he said that, Trump said that we will be past this in 2 weeks. And then Anthony Fauci, uh, and, the, uh, and the reaction, uh, and then he said, wow, that is the most sane advice that I've ever heard. Were the words not spoken by Anthony Fauci. So yeah, just one word, and he set it up the joke. I know I butchered it quite a bit because I'm not Stephen Colbert, but that is one of the techniques. Just change a word, just set up the expectation. Trust me, if you will watch 2 or 3 shows, you will learn these techniques.
Yeah. So the one thing is very important that if you are watching it for, if you want to learn it, what you need to do, you need to break it down. You have to write it down and you have to see what is the twisting word. Otherwise, you will laugh and you will forget what happened because they say it very quickly. So it's very important. If you want to learn, you have to write it down and then see what the twist they have made, what
And
words
watch
they
with
have.
subtitles. Watch
Yeah.
with subtitles.
Yeah.
Turn the text on. We are
Yeah.
not. None of us is Angrez, so don't pretend
Yeah.
that we can understand every word they're saying. We don't. Uh, we miss out
Exactly.
quite a lot of stuff. So if you turn on the text, it is very
Yeah,
helpful.
but DTM Talha, thank you very much. And Ali Asher is with the red light coming in and he want to disqualify us. Before he disqualify us, I would like to thank you, both of you, for taking time out, audience for taking time out, and especially for the evaluator who will evaluate us, I think, right now. So we need to praise him much more. And the important thing is for the contestant, review the ballot and use the techniques, write down your content and try to uh, deliver it in front of someone so that you can get the feedback, practice it, and go there, enjoy, and be yourself. Ali Ashraf.
Am I audible? Thank you so much for your
Ali,
You
you are not
aren't
audible.
audible, Ali. Yeah.
I am audible.
Now you are audible. As always.
Okay. Whenever I uttered Zaid Kaliya, my microphone, I don't know what happened. So let me repeat it again. Thank you so much distinguished Toastmasters at Kaliya for conducting a wonderful session. Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Talha bin Hamid, for your wonderful insight regarding humor. And indeed, your experience is worthy for all of us. And you always come up with some of the nice points that are always useful for all of us. And last but not the least, thank you so much, host Master Rahma, for your time, for your knowledge, insight regarding humor, and thank you so much for the psychology part. It was a great one. So, best of luck to all the contestants, and I believe that you all are going to nail it that, that day. And judges, what I am, I don't have words for them. They must have a tough time, and the and and to ease their effort, I became the contester. So they are not going to judge me. Otherwise, probably I would going to win that contest. So best of luck, all the contestants, and that's all from my side. And the session is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Advised me after listening to my speech that in next speech what you need to do, that you have to bring laughter in first 20 seconds. So for me it was difficult, but I really liked his speech, advice that if we can bring in laughter in audience within 20 seconds of our speech, we can conquer the speech. So let's hear any other question if we have.
I have one more,
Yeah.
and this is for the interest of all the participants.
So you can go ahead.
Mainly we have heard, like, we have to change the twist at the end. Sometimes the audience are sure that he's going to land up somewhere, but they change the
Yeah.
tall, dark, and then they don't say handsome, they say something else. So this way, is there any step which we can learn or we can make on speeches? Because I tried a lot, and till today I'm not successful in all my speeches. I thought, like, I'll say some story and at the end I will change it. Never happened with me. Have any of the panelists or you have experienced?
Well, Latif, I would advise you to, as Toastmaster Rahma suggested, to watch late night shows. Okay, Stephen Colbert or that other South African guy. I think I'm going. My memory is leaving me. Seriously, I've never been. I've been bad with names, but never this bad. Uh, who's that South African guy, Rahma?
Never know, no.
Trevor Noah, yeah.
Yeah, Trevor Noah. So just see one or two of their shows, and yes, most of their comedy is just very ordinary, and you won't even remember it after the show is over. Some of the jokes will stay with you, but observe their techniques, and you will learn very rapidly. Trust me on this. How to play with words, how to set up expectations, and then twist in a different direction. Uh, so, for example, let me try to think of an example that I learned from from Stephen Colbert. What he says is that, for example, they were talking about this whole vaccination thing in the Trump administration, okay, and how it was being like how the government was acting on the vaccination, and uh, So he's and there's this official Anthony Fauci. They have the I don't know, he's the chief health administrator or something like that. And he had some disagreements with Trump on this because Trump denied that there was a need for vaccines and there was a pandemic. And this guy was actually in charge of saving lives. So uh, by relating the situation, he said that, Trump said that we will be past this in 2 weeks. And then Anthony Fauci, uh, and, the, uh, and the reaction, uh, and then he said, wow, that is the most sane advice that I've ever heard. Were the words not spoken by Anthony Fauci. So yeah, just one word, and he set it up the joke. I know I butchered it quite a bit because I'm not Stephen Colbert, but that is one of the techniques. Just change a word, just set up the expectation. Trust me, if you will watch 2 or 3 shows, you will learn these techniques.
Yeah. So the one thing is very important that if you are watching it for, if you want to learn it, what you need to do, you need to break it down. You have to write it down and you have to see what is the twisting word. Otherwise, you will laugh and you will forget what happened because they say it very quickly. So it's very important. If you want to learn, you have to write it down and then see what the twist they have made, what
And
words
watch
they
with
have.
subtitles. Watch
Yeah.
with subtitles.
Yeah.
Turn the text on. We are
Yeah.
not. None of us is Angrez, so don't pretend that we can understand every word they're saying. We don't. Uh, we miss out quite a lot of stuff. So if you turn on the text, it will. It is very
Yeah,
helpful.
but DTM Talha, thank you very much. And Ali Asher is with the red light coming in and he want to disqualify us. Before he disqualify us, I would like to thank you, both of you, for taking time out, audience for taking time out, and especially for the evaluator who will evaluate us, I think, right now. So we need to praise him much more. And the important thing is for the contestant, review the ballot and use the techniques, write down your content and try to uh, deliver it in front of someone so that you can get the feedback, practice it, and go there, enjoy, and be yourself. Ali Ashraf.
Am I audible? Thank you so much for your
Ali, you
You
are
are
not audible.
audible, Ali. Yeah.
I am audible.
Now you are audible. As of
Okay. Whenever I uttered Zaid Kaliya, my microphone, I don't know what happened. So let me repeat it again. Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmasters at Kaliya, for conducting a wonderful session. Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Talha bin Hamid, for your wonderful insight regarding humor. And indeed, your experience is worthy for all of us. And you always come up with some of the nice points that are always useful for all of us. And last but not the least, thank you so much, host Master Rahma, for your time, for your knowledge, insight regarding humor, and thank you so much for the psychology part. It was a great one. So, best of luck to all the contestants, and I believe that you all are going to nail it that, that day. And judges, what I am, I don't have words for them. They must have a tough time, and the and and ease their effort, I became the contester. So they are not going to judge me. Otherwise, probably I would going to win that contest. So best of luck, all the contestants, and that's all from my side. And the session is adjourned.